Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's June 4th, 2013, and I really wasn't going to do this today, but this is another serious one. A couple of things going on that I have to mention. First of all, I had a commenter write in and ask, what do I think may have been brought in during that stand down? Now, technically, it wasn't a stand down, as I've explained once before. They shut down all their operations with the exception, this is the Coast Guard District 7, all their operations except for emergency rescue. So basically, they blamed it on the sequestration. That was the excuse, but it obviously wasn't the reason. Same time this whole exercise is going down, the two FBI agents fall out of the helicopter. Perfect opportunity to bring in those missiles that our government gave to the rebels in Libya, the Al-Qaeda in Libya and in Syria. And of course, they also got their hands on sarin gas. So those are the two things I think we have to worry about. There may be something else too, but those are pretty much on the top of the list right now. And of course, personnel. Personnel could have been brought in too, and as I mentioned in that comment that I had, UN troops have been here for a long time. We train them all the time. And then the Russians were here for that counterterrorism drill in Colorado here not long ago, and I suspect they're probably still around as well. So just to answer that question, and now we get to the real reason I decided to do this today. In the Charleston Gazette, and now this has gone into other places, you can read about it. Let me just read you what I have here. I'll just tell you. A professor of journalism, first of all, he should understand the First Amendment and the whole idea of the entire Bill of Rights that are supporting each other. It's almost like a structure. You remove one of those bricks in the Bill of Rights and the whole thing can topple. You can't make one thing sacrosanct like journalism and then say that the Second Amendment and our ability to hold the government accountable shouldn't exist. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. His name is Christopher Swindell, I guess you say, at Marshall University in West Virginia. You all have probably heard about this by now. And basically, I'm going to quote him here. He says this: "The NRA president's agenda of arming the populace for confrontation with the government," that's what the Second Amendment's all about, not just hunting and fishing. As a matter of fact, it wasn't written for that reason at all, "is bloody treason." Did you hear what he said? Bloody treason. Now, if you think back during the Revolutionary War, the word bloody was used by Tories. I think he's showing who he is. He doesn't understand the Constitution and the Bill of Rights whatsoever. But this is what he called for. He called for the U.S. government to come after the NRA members, and by that, they use the NRA as kind of the poster child for the Second Amendment supporters, whether you're NRA or not, okay? Just so you know. He called for the government to use M1 Abrams and F-22 Raptors with Hellfire missiles to come after constitutionalists who believe in the Second Amendment. That's what he said. Do you see? And this is pervasive in this liberal Marxist establishment that's taken hold of our government. They say, oh, well, this is our duly elected government. But the other side of that coin, he mentioned, this is our duly elected government. What he didn't do is carry the thought through, saying they are bound by their oath to support and defend the Constitution. And if they don't, they are committing treason. He conveniently ignores that. Now, I want to get real serious here. Okay, I'm a man of peace. I've been in the military. I've been a police officer. I know, what it takes to get into a fight, all right? But that's a last resort, okay? I will teach peace, I will preach peace, I will talk peace all the days of my life, even in the midst of battle. I'm going to go back to a person that most of us know about. Some of us revere, some of us don't. That doesn't matter. But it's what he said that's important. He said, talk peace. Right? Jesus did. Talk peace. Buddha said the same thing. Okay? So this is pervasive through true spiritual systems. And I was going to get in today, actually, about the personal relationship with God and talk about the scriptures talking about liberty and God and freedom. Okay? As opposed to the slavery of the devil. But this takes priority right now. He taught peace. Okay? Everywhere. He taught liberty. But I want to quote something to you. Most of you are familiar with this. Everybody looks at him as a pacifist who would turn the other cheek after he was hit. Well, there's more to that story that I don't want to go into right now, but I'm just going to quote him on this, okay? If any man have 2 cloaks, let him sell one and then buy a sword. So there was a line in the sand even for this person that most of us know as Jesus. There's a line in the sand even for him. And there's more to the story than what you've been told. But I think that says it all at this point. There are some other things I could say, but the point is, he was not a pacifist. He was a preacher of peace, but when it comes down to it and you need to defend yourself, that's perfectly legitimate to do so. Okay? So I'm kind of answering this professor like this. I had another commenter. His name is Tubefish. Hope you don't mind me talking about you, Tubefish. He wrote me and he said he hasn't heard much about the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association standing up. I mean, he knows they're standing up, but he noticed that there's this media blackout on what they're talking about. You know, they came out here about all the peace officers, the chiefs of police coming out and saying, you know, all these things against the Second Amendment. Well, they're not elected officials. They're appointed, of course. A lot of sheriffs have stood up, though, and a lot of state governments. And this is how I see this working out, okay? He says, what is going to happen if a sheriff stands up against the federals coming in and trying to force unconstitutional federal laws in their area, whatever they are? Now, in my estimation, most of the drug laws are unconstitutional anyway, okay? Especially the way they're applied. And especially since our government's the biggest, heroin distributor in the entire world. CIA, anyway. With the military's assistance in guarding those things. But you already know about that. The point is that what do we do if these federals come in, the sheriffs stop them from doing it, and then the federals bring in more firepower? First of all, I want to tell you this, okay? This is a war of deceit. Primarily. Can you see it? It's a war of deceit. Constantly. The government's telling you they're doing one thing and they're actually doing something else. Obama's going to give you free health care. No, it's going to increase your premiums by 200%. We're going to have a transparent government. He has the most secretive government we've ever had in the history of our country. Okay, and I could go on and on. I'm not going to raise your taxes. He raises your taxes. I'm not going to attack the Second Amendment. He does. I could go on and on and on. And it's not just Obama, okay? It's the establishment. It's the government, okay? He's just the puppet, and it's those bankers and those internationalists behind him that are trying to do this, okay? We already know that. So what I'm saying is that just because a sheriff, and I don't mean to put any dispersions on any county sheriffs out there. I want to take you all at your face value that have stood up and said these things. But your fruits have to prove it, okay? Your fruits have to prove it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if your county sheriff says that he's going to stop the federals from enforcing unconstitutional federal law, and you get out there to support him, you better make damn sure he is a man of his word. Because you don't know if he's been bought off or not. And how do you tell? By what he does, not by what he says. I just want to give you that warning up front, okay? Always look at that. Now, I'm a little uptight about this because I've never gone this far. You know I haven't. But this is my line in the sand, okay? My line in the sand is this. If a county sheriff stands up against unconstitutional federal authority and he needs help, he better go to the state first. If the state refuses to support him, then it is your duty, your responsibility to go and support that sheriff and defend him in what he's trying to do, okay? That is my line in the sand in all of this. If we ever see that, if we ever see another thing like Boston happen again, and the sheriff tries to prevent it and the federals don't let him, that's the line in the sand, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. But you got to have that guy standing up there because you've got to be able to say that you're under a governmental authority, a competent, elected governmental authority to act. If you do it any other way, you're taking a risk. Well, you're taking a risk anyway, but at least that way you have some higher moral ground. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, The line in the sand. The sheriff says no to the federals. The federals try to force it on him. He fights back. Okay? He goes to the state. The state says no. There are some states that will probably help him. God hope so anyway. All right? You go and you say, I want to join your posse. Okay? And then he'll deputize you. And at least you're working under an authorized elected official to conduct whatever needs to be done to protect your sheriff, his department, your city, your county, your families. And it's not going to be a pretty sight. That's when it'll get out of control. But that is the line in the sand. We can't let it go past that. Okay? It comes to that, and that's it. All right? Pacifism is not the issue when you believe in a spiritual side, when you want to do what's right. Pacifism is good up to a point. But when somebody stands up for what's right and and the other power attempts to crush that, you cannot stand by and watch it happen. All right? Alexander Solzhenitsyn, in my pledge video back in December or January, whenever that was, I read what he said. A lot of people said, well, why don't we go out and start just getting these DHS people now and these cops and all that? Look. What are you going to do? You're going to go out there and you're going to, execute some police officer or some military guy or DHS guy who may have just stopped the pedophile next door from raping your daughter? There are good people in these organizations. Just because they're wearing the uniform doesn't make them bad. And we could go into all kinds of things about that. Yeah, the SS wore the uniform and they were supporting what Hitler did. I understand that. But there are lines you have to watch, and that's why I said hold your fire, okay? There are people out there that are doing the right thing, okay? And those people we need to support. You just can't be random on this kind of stuff. So, again, I say go to the sheriff. If you live in a county where a sheriff stands up, you're there to support him. Now, what about you folks that live in states and counties where the sheriffs don't do that? That's a tricky one. I will just say that if somebody comes in and starts doing these unconstitutional things, lay your case before the state government, and if they don't do it, then you might have to go another direction. I'm not prepared to say what that is right now. Let your county sheriff know you're there, okay? Let him know you're there if he's one of these ones that will stand up. He needs to know he's got your backing, okay? This has been a serious one. I didn't want to go here this early, but I see things at the point where we do have to say what our limit is, okay? And there might be others, but that one's glaring at me in my face today, brighter than these lights, okay? Out here.